Good evening, Newark community. I am Superintendent of Newark Public Schools, Dalila Pinckney. In my 8 months as superintendent, our students having access to a high-quality education and making that possible for every child in the city has been my top priority. So, in light of the recent news of a 20% budget cut in state and federal funding, as well as the board's recent decision to close 5 schools, my executive leadership team and I have worked diligently to design a plan of action to continue to provide all Newark Public Schools students with a high quality education and improve operations in the district. This evening, each member of the executive leadership team will share their recommendations to the request of the Newark Board of Education to consolidate 5 schools. First, the Chief Accountability and Performance Officer will summarize the plan of action, followed by the Chief Academic Officer of Primary Schools and the Chief Academic Officer of Secondary Schools will discuss how they will maintain a focus on student outcomes as we prepare to consolidate the schools. Next, the Deputy Superintendent of Operations will discuss the transportation, building facilities, school finances, human resources, and other salient entities that will impact the school's consolidation. And the Chief Family and Community Engagement Officer will discuss how the district's families and the community will work together to facilitate the consolidation process. It is our hope that the board will be receptive of our robust plan of action and be willing to collaborate in the best interest of all students in Newark Public School System.
Good evening, leaders and Newark School community members. I am the Chief Accountability and Performance Officer. Today, we present the implementation plan regarding campus consolidations. The 3 schools to gradually dissolve are Bruce Street School for the Deaf, Early Childhood West, and Science Park campuses. The 3 schools that will gradually absorb students from the dissolving campuses are JFK, Speedway, and Technology High. Over a 3-year span, the following will occur. Bruce Street School for the Deaf will merge with JFK, Early Childhood West will merge with Speedway School, and Technology High School will merge with the Science High School. The goal of this plan seeks to reduce costs and adverse inequities to students and communities of persons farthest from the greatest need. While facing the $19 million deficit, the economic sustainability of the dissolved campuses is low based on cost per pupil and operational overhead. Gradual consolidation is designed to prevent family burdens across the district from busing, to reduce transportation costs for students receiving specialized services, and increase Black and Brown students' access to high-performing academic programs. The Chief Academic Officer, the Chief Operations Officer, and the Chief of Family and Community Engagement Officers will now present compelling data and evidence to support the proposed campus consolidation plan. It is also the intent of this consolidation plan to preserve the spirit and heart of Bruce Street, Early Childhood, and Technology High by relocating students to a different building without disrupting their school's mission or vision. This plan serves as an opportunity to unite communities, allocate funds, and sustain high-quality education to all students.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Rito, and currently I serve as the Chief Academic Officer of Primary Schools for Newark Public School District. During their primary education, students are taught to think critically, to strive to attain high standards, to meet the challenges posed by technological advancements, and to develop citizenship and basic values. In order to achieve these goals, schools must provide orderly and safe environments where supervised learning can take place. As Chief Academic Officer for Primary Schools, any modifications to our current strategy are geared towards supporting the academic, social, and emotional growth of our youngest scholars. In our effort to actualize the mission and vision of Newark Public Schools, we will be consolidating our student population that attends Bruce Street School for the Deaf with that of our John F. Kennedy School. Our rationale behind this consolidation lies within the student populations and the sensitivity of conditions for our specialized learners. Currently, Bruce Street houses 10 teachers and 52 students, while John F. Kennedy currently houses 23 teachers and 181 students. Due to non-behavioral related specialized needs of our Bruce Street school population, this merger will provide a great addition to the specialized student population at John F. Kennedy without causing any added social, emotional, or academic distress. Our 13th Avenue School, located near the John F. Kennedy School, will remain as is to support our ED students. We will continue to collaborate to ensure additional supports for parents, students, and staff members from our respective campuses are available during the transitional period.
Good evening. My name is Melody Andrews, and I serve as the Chief Academic Officer of Secondary Schools. As the Chief Academic Officer of Secondary Schools in NPS, I have the pleasure of supporting the district's educators in the growth and development of Newark students. In an effort to create educational parity and in consideration of past school closings which heavily impacted community schools on the secondary level, we were intentional to not only consider school performance, but the potential impact on the community those schools serve. Through our analysis of the academic data, we believe that we can better support all students through intentionally positioning secondary programs in schools to maximize adequacy, access, and student growth. To quote our Mayor, Ross Baraka's State of the City address earlier this year, power is the ability to exert force on an object or mass, either animate or inanimate, and make it move. It's the ability to activate your ideas and then put them in motion. Our job is to build, to provide the same access to thousands of other kids. With that being said, as the executive leadership team, we are utilizing this task as a means of moving and building within the district to better serve our students. Rather than completely close a high school, as previously mentioned, we are proposing a merger between Science Park High School and Technology High School as a means of increasing student access to critical programs, which will prepare them with 21st century skills necessary for accelerating in the fields of STEM post-high school. Ultimately, we hope that through the merger and simultaneous implementation of STEM and intensive college and career preparation track curriculums at schools such as Westside High School and Malcolm X Shabazz High School, we will see growth for all students in our district over the next 3 years. Enrollment at Technology High School is 613 students, and Science Park is 843 students, respectively, for the 2019-20 school year. Comparatively, enrollment at Eastside High School is 2,052 students. Behringer Arts and STEAM schools merged in 18-19 school year and currently share an enrollment of 1,404 students. Although class size is a concern for many in our district, increasing enrollment through consolidation will not negatively impact student growth. Currently, student-teacher ratios at Technology High School and Science Park High Schools are 12.5 to 1 and 12 to 1 respectively. As previously mentioned, the Behringer Arts and STEAM merger maintained a 14 to 1 student-teacher ratio, and the potential ratio increase with the consolidation will still be within the district's desired 15 to 1 ratio for core classes. In addition, students at Technology High School, who are mostly Black and brown, do not have the same access to college and AP level courses as those attending Science Park. Furthermore, 85.3% of the Science Park students were enrolled in college last year, compared to Technology High School's 78.3%. Consolidation will increase educational access through combining the strengths of both institutions. With that being said, upon further review of the current humanities programming at Science Park, we believe it will be an excellent fit at West High School, which will also increase the number of positions available for displaced teachers. My department will conduct a review of the Science Park application process as well as other magnets in the city to increase access for all students. In addition, we will facilitate professional development with staff members in both schools, which will aid in the transition process. In alignment with the recently announced New Jersey Institute of Technology initiative to increase Black and brown teachers in the district, we will train and place additional interested staff members from Science Park and Technology High School and high schools across the district to pilot the teacher training academies to prepare Newark students for the opportunity, with the goal of 600 students per year enrolled across the district. Ultimately, it is our goal to increase access to doors of opportunity for all students in Newark. Thank you.
Greetings to our esteemed leadership and our community constituents. My name is Deltonia Nicole Shropshire, and as the Deputy Chief of Operations, I'm charged with effectuating financial fidelity, facilities inspections, as well as the dissemination and collection of the non-academic reports from the principals of schools that are consolidating with existing schools. It will be vital to place staff in locations that are well suited to their skill set and vice versa. Financial areas include but are not limited to the following. The Chief Financial Officer will provide an itemized report within 2 weeks from today's date. The report will specify the following: the savings by closing or consolidating the identified locations, a cost analysis for refitting host schools, a plan for how the funds will be redistributed, as well as the student-based revenue per pupil. Renovating existing schools to accommodate overflow and to modernize facilities should absolutely be a top priority in this initiative. Facilities: a thorough assessment of all closing schools or consolidating schools will be conducted by the field operations managers. A report will be generated that itemizes the repairs, damages, and other significant building issues. If there are significant damages, it will be designated as an unrentable space. Before any property can be utilized for other purposes, the aforementioned must be completed. Those facilities that pass inspection can be used as a means to garner additional revenue by renting the facilities to community churches, organizations, as well as businesses to better serve the surrounding communities. Additionally, a non-academic report will be necessary and needed. The sites that are consolidating into the new school or the existing school will complete and submit this report to the Deputy Chief of Operations by November 15th, 2019. The items to be itemized include understanding the source of funds for local, state, and federal amounts, food services, as well as school revenue, interest earned on that revenue, school fees, facility rentals, products, as well as services, as well as any private donations. Further information is also on and available on the report that has been created and will be submitted. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Newark community. My name is Donna Robinson, and I currently serve also as the Chief Director of Operations. Today I will be reporting on our plans for the transition of staff and human resources and also transportation. So in order to ensure a more seamless transition process, school faculty and staff will be provided with formal written notice of the consolidation process at least a year in advance. Faculty and staff will be provided with transitional funding. This amount will vary based on the current pay grade scale and will also vary based on staff members' decision to either remain in district or leave the district. These amounts will be provided at a later date once the budget has been finalized. Faculty and staff members will be expected to submit a form that will be provided indicating their decision to be placed within the district or within partner districts and or charter school networks in order to receive the payout of that transitional funding. Faculty and staff members transitioning from consolidated or closed schools will be provided with seniority in the hiring process within the district, surrounding school districts, and or charter school networks. A formal list of partner districts and charter schools included will be released at our next meeting. Staff will also be provided with regular updates on the transitional process by a member of district-appointed transitional team at their staff meetings. To speak more specifically about the school closing, so the Bruce Street consolidation that is happening with JFK, in addition to the aforementioned actions, the staff of Bruce Street will merge with students into JFK with consideration given for the special needs and disabilities of the students. We recognize the importance of the existing relationships between the staff and the students and the contributions those relationships have to the development of the students. For Technology High School, which is consolidating with Science Park School, the instructional staff from Technology High School will merge with students as well to Science Park to accommodate the growing student population. For Early Childhood West and the Consolidation with Speedway School, in addition, those staff will also merge with the students to accommodate that growing student population. For transportation, the primary area of focus for the transportation staff will be utilizing the residence information for students within the attendance zone boundary maps to begin planning, adequate bus driver operator staffing, and optimal bus stop route scheduling.
and also opportunities to perform practice runs before the start of the new school year in which the changes will take place. The details regarding these changes and those more information as far as exactly what those bus changes and those bus route changes will look like will be provided at the next meeting once our budget has been finalized. Thank you.
Good evening, Newark community. I am Michelle Colson, Chief Officer of Family and Community Engagement. We've shared a lot of information this evening, and we want to extend the opportunity for families and stakeholders to lend their voice to this dialogue. To that end, we have begun this discussion with our teachers union, parent organizations, and other community leaders, which include Mayor Baraka, Mildred Crump of City Council, Bruce Street Alumni Association, Newark Public Schools Historical Preservation Committee, New Jersey Department of Children and Families, the Newark Trust for Education, NAACP of Newark, New Jersey, and the Newark Clergy Affairs and Interfaith Alliance. Next week, we will hold our first of 3 community dialogue meetings. During these 3 weekly meetings, we want to hear from the community and share how the proposal was created, the budget, and flag potential implementation issues. In the spring, we will host additional community discussions specific to the consolidated schools. Please come out and lend your voice to this vital conversation. For up-to-date information, please visit the link that we have created at www.edreform.newjersey.gov, or you can also email me directly, michelle.colson@k12.nj.gov. Thank you so much. We look forward to hearing from you during these community meetings.
As the superintendent of Newark City Public Schools, this concludes the presentation of our school consolidation plan. We look forward to continuing working with students, parents, teachers, staff, school leaders, advocates, and other community stakeholders for your feedback. Thank you and have a very good evening.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for coming for our debrief. The goal of today is to make sure that we have really dug deep into the issues of equity as it relates to the decisions we made with the school closures. We did only consolidate 4 schools because it met our budget capacity. We didn't need to close the other school to be able to balance it out. However, there's some issues of equity as it relates to intersectionality with the special education students, our Black students, and our poor students, quite honestly. So as the Chief Accountability Performance Officer, if we could all just kind of talk about if there's anything else that we think we may have left out that's might inform or change our decision as we present our updated plan, or any changes we might make from our last meeting. So, thoughts?
I think we did an excellent job. I think that more data and information will come back from those community town hall meetings that we are holding, and I think it's great that we extended the opportunity for parents and other stakeholders to lend their voice to the decisions that we've made. I again think that we took into perspective the historical perspective of these schools, and I feel confident that not only were we keeping our Black students and our poor students in mind, but it's also beneficial to other students with the merge that we have. I think that looking at the other partnerships that are around the community, I think it will be beneficial to the other students as well. So I think our team should be proud of the decision that we made, and when we look back on this in 10 years or moving down the road, that we should feel really confident that we did what was best for our children.
I will also add that as the superintendent, many times when schools may close or consolidations take place, many times students that are in special education are left out and their needs are not being accounted for. So I'm glad that we were able to consolidate schools, make sure that the resources, the teachers, administration, etc., are able to move with the students where their needs can be met with fidelity. So I'm really excited about that.
Are we sure we didn't create any isolation areas inadvertently? I know we talked about transportation, and we had that covered with our special ed students, but just wondering, like, we still talked about the programs and making sure that our students in these areas have some of those other programs. Do we have any other thoughts about how we could do that?
So as a deputy chief of operations, I absolutely felt that some of that was lagging in our report at least, and we need to make sure that that's covered, because my issue and concern is when you consolidate schools, you don't always have the resources to go with the students in the new school. And are the new schools equipped to ensure that the students coming in have the resources, as well as the teachers will have the resources? So in going forward, we just need to make sure that everybody has everything that they need and that the schools are fitted for the influx of students that are coming in. That is on our state plan, as a matter of fact, as far as making sure that we go forward in building out our schools to accommodate a 21st century education. So we are in keeping with that strategic plan that was here before we got here. There are elements that we can definitely use, but in moving forward, we absolutely want to make sure that our children, all of our children, particularly our Black and brown children, are getting served to the best of our ability.
Coming from a human resources perspective, I think that we did well by putting programs in place that would ensure that, like we said, those teachers of those SPED students are traveling with them with the mergers, because thinking about the growth and development, obviously those relationships that they have with their staff and with their teachers have a lot to do with their progress and their growth when you think about like our disabled student population. And so I think that we did well by doing those mergers and putting programs in place to ensure that those staff travel with those students. But one thing I think we have to be intentional about is making sure that like the programs are executed to fidelity. Like, are those transitions happening smoothly? And like you said, are those resources put in place to support those teachers with transportation? That was one of the things I spoke of, making sure teachers have financial incentives. Well, not incentives, but financial support for those teachers who are now going to be traveling longer distances and stuff like that. So we have the programs in place, but making sure that they are executed well.
In a space that accommodates all of the programs, that's the space.
And then to the fidelity point, like I know we have the elementary and the high schools. Have we thought of giving any consideration to the point of incentivizing them? How might we get some of those staff who've been really successful and quite frankly our affluent and predominantly white schools? What is the message we're going to give them to go into our new consolidated schools to generate the same level of rigor and expectation for students that they haven't normally served? Or do we think about, you know, kind of having an academic conversation again on the elementary and the high school level to grow our own from our own side of town? And then what does that look like?
I do think it's critical that we grow our own teacher leaders and investigate and interrogate what teacher leadership looks like in our district. And instead of simply reaching out to those schools that are more affluent to have their teachers come in and kind of bring into the Blacker schools, you know, their ideas and their programs, what programs speak to our children's needs in these schools, as well as like who can we tap on in each of these schools, and maybe having administrators like, you know, suggest names for people who would be good for a teacher leadership cohort to have some of these programs in schools. And I think that would be helpful in us growing our own, and then we do have, you know, from saving money from certain aspects of the budget, we could maybe use those things as an incentive or partner with different firms in the community around education that could possibly help us in that project. But I do think it is important to invest in our own in terms of teacher leadership, so that way they feel like they have a voice in the decision-making process and informing our curriculum, at least from a secondary standpoint.
Yeah, because I know too, like we talk a lot about enrollment, but when we think about accountability and performance, we're talking about the outcomes. And the outcomes for the students in the schools that we consolidated were not very good, right? But now we need to think about how do we change the assessment.
Absolutely.
How do we do that?
Can I make one point to what Melody was talking about as far as I don't know if we have a manual or policies booklet or something for businesses and any contractors that we bring in. I think we need to establish some type of modus operandi as far as they're concerned. You know, I don't want them overstepping or overreaching into what they can and cannot do in our schools.
As the superintendent again, this is really good information, and I will also encourage our team to really build up the PTA at the various schools, make sure that the parents and other community stakeholders are thoroughly engaged within this transition process, because the school can do well with the collaboration of parents, guardians, and other community stakeholders.
That's something that we looked into, especially from the family and community engagement perspective. We definitely went ahead and already extended invitations for parents to attend PTA meetings for those schools that we will be merging. So in advance, they know the culture of the building, and they also have received minutes from past meetings so that they can be involved as well. So that's something that we wanted to keep in mind as well.
Perfect.
Now I know when we planned what schools to close, we had to take into the consideration the safety of the neighborhood and the individual. So I mean, closing the elementary schools in the area, even though you don't want to cause kids trauma by making them move schools, one of the advantages to the location of the schools that we did merge was because it's still centrally located to where we don't have to worry about some of those things.
Yes.
But because we are going to be bringing kids who are outside of the traditional area into the city, I think we should take advantage of this point to have the conversation on a larger level of how we can solve some of those safety issues in the community. Because now the perspective is going to be changed, because we're going to see a different type of student in this environment that they're not used to, and these are now going to be concerns that can be raised on a larger level. So we should take this momentum and try to get some community organizations involved and to elevate this conversation to the city level. So it's not just an issue we're handling on our own, that the safety of all the students in our district, not just the ones that look like us, are centrally located in a certain area.
Absolutely. And converge those interests that sometimes are dueling
Absolutely.
in our district. And another, to your point about reaching out to the PTA in the schools and communicating, there probably should be a plan around how will we market this to parents and students, especially on the high school level, to show them the different opportunities that are available by consolidating Science Park and Technology High School, and kind of figure out a way to package that so that way it's clear and it's communicated that this is an option. Also, if we could form a committee on interrogating the specialty school application process.
The gatekeepers.
And the way that we are keeping certain students in and out of those schools.
Because performance data, right? The data of the schools that we're looking at, it's low, but again, I don't even know how to articulate it better than you already did, but those students, we don't know the extent to which those students just didn't have access to the rigor, right?
Right.
Now, rigor shouldn't just live in an advanced class, it should live in every
Right.
class.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so then back to that HR point, maybe we really do want to focus on growing our own and not transitioning people to new schools with bad mentalities.
And I think it's important to invest in, especially because Technology High School had far fewer AP courses offered than Science Park. So if we invest in our teachers and get more teachers certified in AP, or look at who we have teaching AP at these schools, like are they only the white teachers, are they only, certain other ethnic groups teaching Black and brown children in those spaces, then maybe we need to figure out a way to make that curriculum more accessible to more children.
Because what I was going to say is I think the country as a whole has gotten to a place where we prioritize just getting someone in the building, and we aren't truly assessing the quality of the teachers. And so I think with transitioning these schools, obviously we want this to be a smooth process. So from the human resources perspective, I talked about a lot of incentivized programs to get the same teachers to come into the new schools, but I guess honestly now, as we're reflecting, is that the best option? Because like you said, some of those negative ideologies may be coming with them into a new space.
Sure.
So it's we deal with this constant battle of having a person, a body there, but also like what's the quality of the person that's
Their
there. So it's
mindset.
like that goes back to my previous point, like how do we still hold them accountable? I'm happy that you made the decision to stay in the district, and so we have a person in that space, but like that doesn't mean that you cannot be quality or not, you know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
what do those programs look like?
And I think we have great leaders in both of those buildings. So to that point, like, what do we want to do in terms of the consolidation and the principals of these two high schools? Are we, like, do we want to make a dual principalship, or do we, like, how do we determine which one is the best leader for this new school that we've created?
Yeah, because just purely looking at performance data, it's not going to be
It's
enough.
not, yeah.
We need to consider all of the different accountability measures, right? So what's the culture?
Right.
You know, for our school, I think it's what technology is predominantly a ELL population, right? So what other supports are we putting in for that population as they transition? So is that something we need to be prioritizing, or do we need to be prioritizing the principals who actually have the best performance gains, even though we already agree that the measure and the metric itself is flawed, right? But it's still the one we have to deal with.
Right.
So what's the message that do we send?
Another component that I think needs to be addressed or at least explored is to get a financial audit, a fiscal audit, to determine where our resources were going prior to our taking our positions, and was it lopsided, was it equal? In research, it shows that a lot of financial resources are distributed and given to the higher achieving schools.
Yeah.
So we want to double check that documentation as well. So I suggest we do a fiscal audit too from, I don't know, 18, probably 2017, 18, 19, the last 3 years.
Yeah, the audit data could at least follow the performance data. So performance data is 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18. So we could look to see if there's any connection to the funding and the outcomes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And teacher salaries. You know, we're talking about incentivizing. The best incentive is to give them the salary that they absolutely deserve.
Yes.
So this equity thing, we kind of talked a lot about our decision making, but any other areas of equity that we foresee, anticipated some challenges, like our community, our parents.
Absolutely. We know there's going to be a problem.
I would say make sure the message is clear, make sure the message is intentional, and make sure that when we execute our message, they know that we have them in mind.
Well, and let's make sure we don't execute like colorblind language.
Yes. Yes.
And liberal language.
Yes.
Let's make sure that we're really being specific in how we're providing almost a customized experience if we can.
Yes.
And how we've taken into account that we know that one decision is not going to impact every family the same.
Yes.
So from our SPED population, our ELL population, our Black population, our affluent, and those who are in poverty, I think we need to be really clear.
And transparent.
Absolutely. And be open to where they might say, like, no, this is a very colorblind thing. You are treating us as all the same. It is very liberal. It is, really doing those things. So
just really truly like respecting the intersectionality of ourselves and our identity as a district.
Yes.
Because that is who we serve and who we represent. That is our story too. So really taking that feedback and making sure that we really listen to the feedback that they give us, especially in those forums. So I think that's an absolutely great idea.
And the model that we have right now as far as specialty schools really works. I think, and I think that we need to stick with that and probably still serve as a national model for how specialty schools can work. They're public schools, not necessarily charter schools, right? So we can make this definitely a flagship of how education ought to work.
any closing thoughts?
I think we should discuss like action steps. So we've talked about a lot of potential ideas. So what do next steps look like?
We'll definitely get the audit in place. I'll talk to the CFO when we leave here. That's one thing that I can definitely do.
And then I'll definitely work with you to compare how the budget may have impacted the outcomes. If there were some specific programs that worked in one year where they had a increase versus removal of even the staff members, or some people who were really specific in either the increase or the decrease. So maybe a town hall with the community, with the school-based community, to kind of get as many perspectives of the things that we think might have contributed, at least with the accountability and performance, because the students who are doing well, we want to make sure they still do well in their new school.
I'm sorry. I think it would really be valuable too if we do have a town hall that we actually listen to the people.
Right.
Sometimes we just go ahead and do what we want to do, but to listen to some of the input and try and initiate some of their thoughts would be great too.
And follow up with them.
Yes.
I plan to begin research on like teacher growth and teacher retention programs, and then also like some of the grow your own programs, so we can figure out how do we maintain the staff and grow and even better staff to, you know, execute to fidelity.
Does that include professional development? That is that?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So the teachers we have, how do we continue to develop them as well? Not only how do we get quality teachers into the district.
I also want to state that we want to make sure, which we already stated numerous times, that the process isn't rushed, because research says that if you do it or execute school closures, etc., in under 12 months, which we do not plan to do, that the system will break apart. It'll be flawed. So I want to make sure that I continue to oversee the process and make sure that we have enough time within the 12 to 18 month period to make sure that all steps are being executed with fidelity.
And myself and Mr. Rito will get together to discuss the best plan of action in terms of student outcomes in the process and in that timeline. So how do we ensure students are still successful within that timeline, and come up with a plan in terms of collaborating around teacher development and growing our own in terms of like teacher learning or learning leadership, sorry.
For family and community engagement, as I shared before, we've already started those community forums, but those are big pictures in terms of the entire plan that we had to consolidate schools. We shared with the parents and the community stakeholders that as we move forward in the school year, that we will have additional meetings, school-based, so specifically discussing how all of this will impact particular schools. So we'll collect all of that data and feedback from those forums that we already have that are underway now, and then we'll start planning for more forums during the spring. And of course, I'll let you all know so that we can merge and have as much information, but then also listen to the parents, because as you said, listening is important, so we have to do that.